Apollo 9 was the last of the Earth orbital flights in the Apollo program. Its major objectives were to test the lunar module, demonstrate the operational capability of the extravehicular mobility suit, and to acquire data in support of the rapidly growing Earth Resources Program.
Apollo 9 was the first mission in which the full three-module Apollo spacecraft, consisting of the command and service modules and the lunar module, was launched as part of the Apollo Saturn V space vehicle. The command and service modules had been flown previously on two manned missions. The lunar module had been tested alone during an unmanned orbital mission. The lunar module is a two-stage vehicle designed to soft land two American astronauts on the moon. The lower section, the descent stage of the module, will be used to control the actual lunar landing and serve as a platform for liftoff. The upper section, the ascent stage, will be used to lift off from the moon and return the astronauts to the orbiting command module.
Boarding gumdrop is Colonel James A. McDivitt, veteran of Gemini 4, now the first U.S. commander ever to have responsibility for the simultaneous flight of two spacecraft and the team of three to man them both. Assigned as lunar landing module pilot is Russell Schweickart, a civilian on his first space flight. Pilot of the command ship Gumdrop is Colonel David Scott, a space veteran of Gemini 8.
Jim McDivitt, Dave Scott, Rusty Schweickart, three men to qualify this new machine.
Now, when we started out, we, meaning the Grumman Company and NASA, to learn how to build a spacecraft like this, there were a lot of problems. We had super lightweight wiring and super lightweight everything. And there were some things that were just too super lightweight. And we made those a little heavier. But we went through the development, and we were assigned to LEM 2, saw it go through its growing pains, and we got LEM 3, and its saw its growing pains. But we've reached a point now where I have great confidence in the spacecraft. It's nothing wrong with it. It showed itself in tests to be very reliable. I sure am. If I wasn't confident, we'd have Dave train more. No, I think we have a mutual confidence within the crew and the abilities of the other people, and we have the same kind of confidence in the ground in them being able to supply the spacecraft with the knowledge that they need to do the mission successfully. Well, a lot of people have asked me about what I think of the risk on the mission. Everything one does is risky. Now, the chances of success between different things are different. I think my chances of success of walking down the hall are pretty good. I think my chances of success of driving home are a little bit less than that, but pretty good. I think my chances of flying from here to the Cape or the Cape someplace else are pretty good. I think my chances of flying this mission successfully are pretty good. Now, everything is relatively a little more risky or dangerous or has a little less chance of success than the previous one. Obviously, there's not a 100% chance of this mission being successful, and we all know that. Now, what that chance is, I don't know. I'm prepared to fly the mission. I think that it will be successful. If I knew of any one reason that it wouldn't be, we'd go fix it, as I mentioned earlier. I think that we're all mentally and morally prepared to accept the challenge and go off and do it.
Are you confident that Dave Scott can handle this by himself?
We spend a lot of time training for this, and Dave, of course, during the simulations now, we have all these failures. The LEM both spacecraft in these simulations just about fall apart at the seams, so that you're always fixing this, that, or the other thing, and as a result, when you get to the flight, it's such a pleasure because you're flying around and everything isn't going wrong, you know. And of course, that's why we simulate that way, because we're always ready to handle any of these emergencies which come up and still safely return to the command module and in the end, safely return to Earth.
And there we now have an open tunnel, and we have in the command module 3 people and 3 pieces of equipment, each of which is about the size of a people. And with 6 of us in there, it is really crowded. One of the difficulties in learning how to operate these mechanisms is the weight. Primarily, it gives us the capability to transfer from one vehicle to the other through a pressurized tunnel.
One thing that we should keep in mind is that only one of these vehicles has the capability to land. safely, I guess I should add. They both have the capability of landing. We only have one set of parachutes and one heat shield.
I think it's important to realize that that Jim and I end up leaving Dave in a three-man spacecraft, which takes 3 men to run it.
I mean, relatively within the mission, which of the maneuvers are more critical?
Well, obviously, the untethered EVA with a limb probably is, because the limb goes to 90 miles. It has no heat shield and no tether. So it's essential that the limb returns to the heat shield.
Apollo 9 crews trained extensively in simulated weightlessness underwater, making the EVA transfer between modules.
On Apollo 9, Schweickart will also test in space a new independent life support system to be used by the first men on the moon.
The transfer entails the first outer space use of the Apollo Extravehicular Mobility Unit, or EMU, consisting of pressure suit and life support packs.
In a simulator, the astronauts practice docking spider with a full-scale model of Gumdrop.
When we first got these two spacecraft, I figured, well, if it's so hard to train for this spacecraft, and we now have two, it should only be 2 times as hard as this. But I found out, much to my amazement, that it's much more difficult than 2 times the old training problem. Because I have to learn how to fly this one, I have to learn how to fly this one. Then I have to learn how to fly these two together. Then I have to learn how to fly them this way, and some other way. And there's so many different modes that we can get into that we really have more than just 2 configurations. We probably have somewhere between 8 and 10 or 12 maybe. When we consider the S-IVB and the ascent and the descent stage and the command module and the service module and the different ways we can hook them together.
You've got a lot of variables there.
Right. So it's very difficult to train for this mission. It's the most unaerodynamic shape I think I've ever seen. Matter of fact, all the models I see, the models have nice straight sides, and they're hard and they're rigid and everything. And the first time I saw a real LEM, I looked at it and it had what looked like cellophane sides and aluminum foil roof, and oh, they're kidding. But it's really, that's what it really is. But it doesn't need to be strong. It doesn't need all those aerodynamic shapes on the outside, because that's not its mission.
Spacecraft and launch vehicle equipment for the first manned Apollo Saturn V missions was being delivered to the Kennedy Space Center. This included the first lunar module scheduled for manned flight. Latch load tests were completed. Flammability tests were completed in early August. Docked modal tests were conducted on August 15th and September 26th. And the Apollo 9 lunar module successfully underwent both unmanned and manned altitude chamber tests in September.
Following the mating of the 3-module Apollo spacecraft of the Saturn V, the combined 363-foot space vehicle was readied. Then, on January 3rd, moved to Launch Pad A at Complex 39 of the Kennedy Space Center.
The Space Agency revealed today that all 3 Apollo 9 astronauts have developed stuffy noses and sore throats, and that their space flight, now scheduled to start Friday, may have to be postponed for a day or 2. The men also are tired from their heavy training schedule. They'll undergo physical examinations again tomorrow morning, after which the decision will be made on whether to postpone the mission.
On the morning of March 3rd, the Apollo Saturn V space vehicle stood ready for its mission.
Some 5 miles from Launch Pad 39A. That was not McDivitt. I thought at first it was. His hairline's very similar to McDivitt's. One of the several technicians who were at the breakfast with them, here they are as they begin to suit up. This is Scott. This is Rusty Schweickart, the Lunar Module pilot. Schweickart, 33, MIT graduate. Scott is 36. This is McDivitt, the commander, 39-year-old man who is in charge of this flight and has to make the go, no-go decisions. Here they are in their spacesuits, carrying their portable air conditioner equipment as they leave the crew quarters for the special van, which takes them the 5 miles along these roads across the marshes of the Cape and Merritt Island to the launch pad.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control, T-minus 2 hours, 38 minutes, 54 seconds, and counting. The transfer van carrying the Apollo 9 prime crew, astronauts McDivitt, Scott, and Schweickart, now has arrived at Launch Pad A and should be pulling up on the west side of the pad shortly. We expect the crew to be ready to board the spacecraft some 10 minutes or so from this time. Once the transfer van does stop, the 3 astronauts will get out with 2 suit technicians and board elevator number 1 from level A in the mobile launcher, a high-speed elevator that will take them to the 320-foot level here at the launch pad. The 320-foot level, of course, the location of the hatch for their Apollo 9 spacecraft. The commander, who sits in the left seat, McDivitt, and the Lunar Module pilot, Schweickart, who sits in the right-hand seat, along with 1 suit technician, will depart the elevator, go across the Apollo 9 access arm, swing arm number 9, and enter the White Room to board the spacecraft. The commander boarding first, followed by Rusty Schweickart. In the meantime, the command module pilot, Dave Scott, who sits in the middle seat, remains on a chair in the elevator with a 2nd suit technician. He will wait until his 2 fellow crew members are aboard the spacecraft, and he is alerted by Test Supervisor Jim Harrington to also go across the swing arm and board the spacecraft. Inside the spacecraft at the present time is the backup command module pilot, astronaut Dick Gordon. Gordon has been in the spacecraft for some 15 minutes or so at this time. He is making final switch settings on the oxygen flow rates for the prime pilots when they come aboard, also setting up the cabin lights in final preparation for the flight crew arrival. We expect the crew to be coming aboard shortly. All other aspects of the count still going well at this time. This is Launch Control.
The flight crew arrived at the White Room and prepared to enter the Apollo spacecraft hours before liftoff.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control, T-minus 2 hours, 33 minutes, 12 seconds, and counting. Commander Jim McDivitt and Lunar Module pilot Rusty Schweickart now going across swing arm 9, the Apollo access arm, and now have arrived in the White Room. In the meantime, the man who sits in the middle seat, astronaut Dave Scott, remaining in the elevator, which is now locked at the 320-foot level. He will remain seated in the elevator with a suit technician. The commander, now in the White Room, Jim McDivitt, the pad leader, has been given a go to ingress the spacecraft commander, and Jim McDivitt should be coming over the hatch here shortly, boarding the Apollo 9 spacecraft.
As the countdown proceeded smoothly, the launch director ordered the Apollo access arm moved from the spacecraft and the launch escape system armed. In the Launch Control Center, a number of NASA officials who are responsible for the manned spaceflight program, the Apollo Saturn space vehicle, and the launch operations closely monitored each step of the terminal countdown. The Vice President of the United States was one of the prominent guests at Kennedy Space Center to witness the Apollo 9 launch.
All propellant tanks in the second stage now pressurized. 35 seconds and counting. The vehicle now completely pressurized. The vents closed. We are go. 30 seconds and counting. T-minus 25 seconds and counting. All aspects still go at this time as the computer monitors. 20 seconds. Guidance release 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running. Commit. Liftoff. We have liftoff at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Plus 17 seconds. The roll and pitch program are in now to put Apollo 9 on the proper flight, azimuth, and attitude. Half a mile high. Roll is complete. 1 mile downrange now, 4.5 miles high, velocity 2,500 feet per second. In the region of maximum dynamic pressure. Flight Director Gene Kranz taking a staging status check now. Apollo 9 is go for staging. Outboards out. S2 ignition. Thrust is go on the second stage. Downrange 70 miles now. 42 miles high. 9,300 feet per second velocity. Standing by for tower jet is now the launch escape tower. Tower jet confirmed.
Apollo 9, you are go all the way. Everything looks good. Roger.
During the second revolution, the command service module separated from the third stage, maneuvered 180 degrees, and maintained station keeping for 1/2 hour.
Roger, it's out there, and we're turned around and proceeding with the station keeping and docking.
Oh, tremendous, Apollo 9. Thank you.
From gumdrop, now separated from the rocket, the astronauts inspect Spider.
Command and service module has separated from the third stage, has turned around, and is now station keeping.
Bella.
Roger, copy that.
During this pass, the command and service modules did separate from the S-4B, the third stage of the launch vehicle. The spacecraft has turned around, and the crew is now inspecting the Lunar Module, which is still inside the spacecraft LEM adapter attached to the S-4B. They'll continue this station keeping for another 10-12 minutes. Docking scheduled just about 3 hours over the Goldstone station.
While passing over the United States, the command module docked with the Lunar Module.
And Apollo 9, Houston, we've got you through the Redstone, standing by.
Go ahead. Roger, Houston, we're about 25 feet now on the closing point.
Copy.
Houston, we're hard dock.
Roger, Apollo 9, understand hard dock. Good show.
Reported hard dock at 3:02:08.
The next maneuver, to activate the springs which would eject the Lunar Module command module configuration from the S-4B.
After assuring that the tunnel joint between the two spacecraft was rigid, and after checking all systems, the astronauts separated the entire Apollo spacecraft from the third stage.
Apollo 9, this is Houston. You are go for ejection.
Roger, go for ejection.
We got the LEM out of the S-4B successfully and demonstrated our particular technique, which is the use of a probe and a drogue. Everything worked just as advertised with the probe and drogue, and the docking was a good, firm docking. There was no question that we had, in fact, linked up with the lunar module, and we extracted it from the S-4B with no problem.
Houston, Apollo 9.
Go, Apollo 9, this is Houston.
Okay, Houston, you're coming in very late, but be advised we've had a successful ejection, and we're presently separating very slowly from the S-4B. We've got them in sight out all the windows.
Oh, sounds beautiful. Could you give me your ejection time, please?
Okay, Houston, if you can read, the ejection time was 4 hours, 8 minutes, and 5 seconds.
A short burn of the spacecraft main engine maneuvered it 2,000 feet away from the third stage. The engine of the third stage was then reignited for a second and third time, increasing its speed to an Earth escape trajectory. The stage was thrust into solar orbit in order to avoid later recontact with the spacecraft.
Apollo 9, Houston.
Looks like we're going to be right down his tailpipe.
No ignition on the S-4B.
It's on the way. It's just like a bright star disappearing in the distance.
And we had an additional opportunity there to watch the S-4B relight. The S-4B was ignited by ground control, and we were some 1,000 to 1,500 feet away at the time, and got to get a little scenic view.
On the second day of the mission, the crew fired the spacecraft's main engine 3 times, which placed them in an elliptical Earth orbit of 125 miles by 312 miles. These maneuvers shifted the spacecraft so as to obtain proper lighting for the rendezvous maneuvers conducted later in the mission.
These burns could be roughly correlated to the mid-course corrections of a lunar mission.
At the same time, the burns also reduced the command service module weight to enhance possible rescue of the lunar module crew after separation of the two spacecraft.
And the reason we do these long maneuvers docked is because on a lunar mission, the insertion into lunar orbit is performed, of course, with the lunar module on, and it's a very long burn and has to be very precise. And in evaluating this the second day, we found that the guidance system was very accurate, and the residuals, or the leftovers at the end of the maneuver, were very, very small.
The lunar module systems were checked out and evaluated on the third day.
The crew cleared the tunnel connecting the command and lunar modules of the probe and drogue docking mechanism. This would open the tunnel for the transfer of McDivitt and Schweickart from the command module to the lunar module.
Houston, just for info, tunnel clearing went pretty much according to plan.
Apollo 9, Houston's reading you loud and clear.
Oh, Roger, I know a little piece of info for you. The drogue looks as good as new.
Roger, Apollo 9.
The purpose of the third day was to take an overall look at the lunar module systems, the various elements which go to make up the complete vehicle, the environmental control system, electrical power system, etc., and look at these at the first part of the day in a more or less independent manner. That is, look at each system, go through all the various exercises that we could in operating that system in a backup mode and the redundant modes and all that kind of thing. And then toward the end of that day, work up to the culmination of
of the system's test, which was a docked descent engine burn. This burn served really two purposes. One, it was a very long test of the descent engine, which will be used to land the lunar module on the surface of the moon. And the second purpose was to exercise the total guidance system of the docked vehicles. Dave mentioned that a good part of this flight was devoted to the operation of the combined vehicles, not independent, but actually two pieces put together, which become a third spacecraft in a sense. And in this particular case, we're flying that total third spacecraft from the lunar module end instead of from the command and service module end. This kind of an operation might be required in case of malfunction of the service module engine as we break into lunar orbit. We would then employ the descent engine on the lunar module to bring us home safely to Earth. So this was another rather crucial test, the docked DPS burn.
Lunar Module pilot Schweikart's motion sickness and other flight activities caused the crewmen to be delayed 1.5 hours in the actual transfer.
Getting right to the flight of Apollo 9 and Russell Schweickart, how sick is he?
Well, it's impossible to tell right now then exactly how sick he is. All we really know at the moment is that he has had some nausea and vomited on 2 occasions, and that was this morning. Since that time, he's carried out a good deal of activity in the flight plan, carried out most of the flight plan activities that were online for today, and we hope to get a better reading on that here within the next few hours and make our decisions about tomorrow.
Schweickart requested a pill for motion sickness before launch. How long before launch did he ask for that? Was this a spur of the moment thing, or was he worried about motion sickness?
No, he was worried about motion sickness. Rusty has had some motion sickness occur in some of the zero-G aircraft flights, which is not unusual. This happens to a lot of people because of the positive and negative G mixed with some zero-G. And the warmness of inside the aircraft. He also had some of the same sort of motion sickness of a different type, really, on the water in egress exercise, and that's not uncommon among our people also. Even after some of the missions, we've observed this, of course. So while these episodes seemed very prominent to him, he decided that he would be better off to be prepared in view of the experience of the Apollo 8 crew, where they had this early in the flight.
It would seem that perhaps this might have contributed one way or another, perhaps against selecting him for extravehicular activity, and yet apparently it did not. Can you explain that?
No, I don't think so, because we haven't felt that he was that prone to, any more necessarily prone to motion sickness than some of our other crewmen have been, because it's a different type. He can fly all sorts of acrobatic maneuvers and things of that sort without any sense of motion sickness whatsoever.
McDivitt and Schweickart entered the lunar module through the tunnel at 43 hours into the mission and activated the lunar module systems for the first time.
With 2 spacecraft now in operation, new code names were introduced. The cone-shaped command module known as Gumdrop, the insect-like lunar module called Spider.
The first television transmission of the lunar module interior was initiated at 46 hours into the mission. The 7.5 pound television camera was a new model that will be used on the lunar surface and had not been used on previous missions.
Okay, Rusty, if you'll read me, how about raising your left arm there? Oh, very good. And Spider, like I say, we're getting a good picture. We're getting no voice at all. Why don't you just go VHF if you can, Spider?
Roger, how do you read me right now?
Oh, we're reading you loud and clear, Spider.
Okay, I guess we're just not getting out on the box or something. Gumdrop's reading me all right, but you weren't.
Okay, I'm not reading Gumdrop at all, and I am reading you loud and clear now, and the TV picture has been real good.
Okay, we're going to have the LRP talking to the press now. Okay, how do you read now, Houston?
Cliff, you're coming through loud and clear, Rusty. It's real good.
Okay, we have to go to PTT on the hand controller to do it. Evidently the ICS won't do it.
Following a 3-hour check of the lunar module operating systems and deployment of the landing gear, the descent engine was fired for the first time under control of the lunar module autopilot.
This engine, which will eventually be used for the actual lunar landing, would be under the manual control of Spacecraft Commander McDivitt for a large portion of the burn.
Okay, ignition.
Now, McDivitt put on a virtuoso performance, playing the throttle of the lunar module, each variation of thrust a note in a technological symphony.
Okay, ignition. Go finally up to 40%, Dave. It's 40%. Okay, stand by for the auto throttle. Descend reg light now. Going down. Pressure's going down. Here comes the throttle up. I got 228 to go. The camera coming back on. Get ready for throttling profile. Roger. 30. Okay, 170, 157, 145. Starting the throttle. 40%. Going down to 10%. Going back up to 40%. Going back down to 25%. Back up again. Okay, coming up to 40%. Throttle profile is complete. We'll just let it sit there. 29.1. Roger, 24 seconds to go. I'm going to shut down manually at 3 seconds to go. I've got 18, 16, 15, 14, 13. No sweat. 12, 10, 9, 8. Get your hand out. 6, 5, 4. Shut down. Like that. Let's get hold here. Right with you all the way. Okay.
And Spider, that was a beautiful burn, man. You were right down the tube.
Looked pretty neat from here, too. All right, you want to residual, Houston?
I can copy him on your disky now, Spider.
Okay, very good. So, you know, we can really feel that stuff flashing around here at the end.
I got the max rate you got. We're about 0.3 of a degree per second.
Yeah, with the offset that I have on my rate scale over here, I can't tell where 0 is, but it didn't deviate hardly at all.
That was mighty beautiful all the way, the Spider.
The engine so necessary for the lunar landing had performed flawlessly.
These maneuvers are essential for last-minute corrections before touchdown on the lunar surface. At the conclusion of the tests, and after shutdown of the lunar module systems, the astronauts returned to the command module. The main engine of the spacecraft was then fired for the 5th time to circularize the orbit for the lunar module rendezvous later in the mission.
On that third day, I think I can summarize the whole thing by saying that everything worked beautifully. We did have some small malfunctions, none of them very significant, and in the end worked up to the dock SPS burn, which went off without a hitch. In fact, it was the best looking simulation we'd run up to that point.
On the 4th day of the mission, the crew again entered the lunar module, actuated and checked its operating systems. As Apollo 9 passed over the United States on its 46th revolution, Schweickart emerged through the Lunar Module front hatch onto the porch to begin a 38-minute period of activity outside the spacecraft.
The first all-up test in space of the Portable Life Support System, or PLSS, and the suit to be worn on the moon.
Okay, Spider, gum drop. The hatch is open. No sweat. It just swings like it ought to swing. Hey, I can see Rusty's foot. Can you see me wiggling my toes?
Schweickart was attached to the lunar module only by a safety tether. With his own life support and communication systems, he was virtually an independent one-man spacecraft. His call sign as the third link in communications, Red Rover.
Oh boy, what a view. That's spectacular. It really is.
During this activity, Schweickart retrieved a thermal sample from the exterior of the lunar module and evaluated the effectiveness of the lunar module handrails. He reported excellent results, stating that he could maneuver himself to any position and remain there with ease. He also reported that his suit was cool and comfortable at all times while outside the spacecraft. At the same time, David Scott partially emerged from the command module hatch to retrieve a thermal sample from the surface of that module. The lunar module pilot photographed Scott and the command module.
Stand by, let me put away my little push button. Yeah, we're all taking pictures of everybody taking pictures.
Yeah, you want to retrieve the sample?
Right, that's a good idea.
And Gumdrop, you'll be getting a warning on your H2 tank.
Hey, Rusty, why don't you lean over here again? I'd sure like to get a picture of that whole scene. Okay, coming over.
Gumdrop, you'll be getting a warning in about 4 minutes on your H2 tank. No sweat.
Those window marks are all over there. Yeah.
Gumdrop, this is Houston. You may be getting a warning on your H2 tank. No problem.
Okay, you ready for... Okay, you ready? Thermal samples here? Ready. Second, Dave, let me get around here where I can get a picture, too. Okay?
Gumdrop, Houston.
All these marks all over the window. Shoot, oh dear.
Gumdrop, Houston.
Hey, Dave. Okay. Are you ready for the scene? Now, use your head when you're out there. You know, this isn't a contest between you and that sample. All right.
Gumdrop, Houston. Anticipate a warning very soon on your H2 tank.
Okay, and you want to hook it in the solid ring, David, rather than that wire. Okay.
You get me 3 up.
Now, both Scott and Schweickart were retrieving experimental thermal samples attached to the exteriors of the lunar and command modules.
Okay. There's one. It didn't even close on itself. Okay, now you gotta pull those straight up, and there's one more little hook. Okay, now, next one. Whoa, whoa. About that. Got some thermal sample. Yeah, you're getting it wrapped up around your neck. How can it do? Okay.
Gumdrop, do you reach Houston?
Okay.
Gumdrop, do you reach Houston?
Oh, there's Baja, California. Oh, very pretty. wonder if I got any film left. Oh, yeah, I do. Take some more film going across Baja here.
Schweikart's heart rate 77.
It's one place that's not too hard to recognize. Yeah, that's true. Let's switch hands with the camera. It's set right, isn't it? Yeah, 11. Yep, it's F11. It's not set on infinity. Oh, no, you got it at a 60th, though. It wasn't when it went out there. Okay. You got it now.
Spider, do you read Houston?
I wonder if I ought to keep it there. I don't know. The other ones were taken at 250. It depends on when it got knocked over. It got knocked over when it was going out. I'd leave it there. This is the camera that we used this morning. I took pictures inside of the tunnel with a wide-angle lens on it at 60th. Now, did you know there's a washer between the two panes of our overhead window? Oh, that's good. Yeah. Okay, come on in. I got pictures of you.
Gum drop, this is Houston, do you read? Raj, pass the word to Gum Drop that he'll have a master, he just got a master alarm, it's the X2 tank, no problem.
The lights are on. This was not scheduled.
Gum drop, Houston.
It's 24 minutes to the run. We've got about another 15 minutes and then we should start thinking about getting back in. Must be inhabited. The water's all dirty. Is it gone? There you go. David, things are still falling out up there. What are you doing? Throwing everything overboard? Yeah. Yeah. The water sticks out, but the city doesn't. Now the winds look pretty strong. A lot clouds. Flags in there. That's right. The red, white, and blue from up here. Houston, how are you reading Red Rover here?
Roger, reading you loud and clear here, Houston. How do you read me?
Wonder why they're not talking to us.
Spider, Gumdrop, this is Houston. How do you read?
Spider, are you reading Houston? No, I haven't heard him say anything either. Houston, Spider, you read?
Raj, Spider, this is Houston.
I heard him then.
Spider, this is Houston. How do you read?
Houston, Spider, do you read?
That's affirmative, Spider. This is Houston, reading you loud and clear.
Okay, Rusty, why don't you pass the camera back in here and work on the handrails up there for just a minute. Could you stand by one? Change compacts here. Okay, here comes the camera. Hey, just a minute, let me get this other one zipped in. Yeah. Take it easy out there, I don't want you getting, okay, so sorry. Hey, Rusty? Yes, sir. Stand by. Oh, I'm not going to start yet. I got to pass this camera back in. Take your time. Ooh, that sun's really bright.
Because of Schweikart's upset stomach the previous day, his extravehicular transfer from the lunar module to the command module to be used if the transfer tunnel were blocked was curtailed. But the remaining EVA, which lasted for 37 minutes, demonstrated not only that an extravehicular transfer was possible, but gave a good workout to the spacesuit and life support system that will later be worn when exploring the surface of the moon.
Okay, Davey, you ought to start getting your hands closed. Say again? Better start getting your hands closed if you're not already doing it. Oh, it's closed. Locked.
After Schweickart moved back into the lunar module, he tested the television camera for 15 minutes. The transmission was received by ground stations at Goldstone and Merritt Island. Picture and voice quality were excellent.
You're receiving no voice, and I'm eating my lunch. Yeah, the commander's talking while he's eating. He's not supposed to do that. Okay, Houston, that's done.
Oh, very good. Hey, it's a tremendous picture, Spider.
Great. How much longer do we have our tremendous picture? 10 more minutes?
Yeah, we've got it for about another 13 minutes, Spider. We can watch your whole lunch there. Count your bites.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And, Spider, will you read me back over Redstone in Hawaii?
I read you the first time, but that was only one time.
Okay, understand.
Stop touching, just barely. Houston, Spider.
Go ahead, Spider.
Roger. We wondered, going over the stateside there on the EVA, did you read us all the way? We noticed that you didn't say anything even when we asked questions.
We were reading everything, all of you, loud and clear, and we just weren't getting up to you, but the comm from you was terrific. We read all your conversations, sound like you were really having a ball.
Yeah, it's a pretty good view from out there. That's what you call the view from the top of the stairs. LEM stairs, that is. Have you got any words of wisdom on tomorrow's flight plan yet, Smokey?
Raj, we'll cover that with you later if you want. We'll settle down. And if you got anything that you can give us along the line about clearing the tunnel, it sounds like that goes pretty well.
Yeah, the tunnel doesn't take long at all. It's getting ready to clear the tunnel.
Okay, and hey, Red Rover, how about a big smile for the folks at home here, and let us know that you're feeling pretty good after that show.
Yeah, we're feeling great, as a matter of fact. McDivitt doesn't look so good, but he feels all right.
Well, that was the typical friendly CDR smile.
Right. They don't like it because I've got a better beard than they do. Straight teeth, but a crooked smile.
All right. I don't like you because you got a better view than I do.
That's okay, we just don't like you.
Okay, we're coming up on a keyhole now. We'll probably have a dropout for about a minute and 55 seconds or so and pick you back up again.
Okay. Okay, you want the TV to stay on?
Oh, that's affirmative. Leave it just like it is. We'll just have a little blizzard for the folks at home and pick you back up again.
Okay.
The EVA day, we demonstrated that we could, in fact, run two vehicles simultaneously in a preparation for an EVA and an actual EVA with both spacecraft depressurized and then a repressurization on the command module side after having received the crew. In this case, we simulated it, and we convinced ourselves that if it were necessary to transfer EVA, that we could do it in the time allocated and with a high margin of safety.
On the fifth day, McDivitt and Schweickart give Spider its crucial test flight, undocking from Gumdrop to maneuver 100 miles out before attempting to find their way back to the vital docking with Gumdrop and its capability to return them to Earth.
The rendezvous exercise began with another check of the activated lunar module systems by McDivitt and Schweickart. Then, on direction from Mission Control, astronaut Schweickart fired the lunar module's small maneuvering engines and slowly separated from the command module.
Okay, you're free. I'm free? Roger.
We separated, and I guess as you probably heard on the radio, we had a little difficulty with the separation. We came out to the end of the probe and it stopped, but by manipulating the switches, we came off properly. And from then on, the rendezvous went exactly the way we had planned it. There wasn't one slight deviation that I can recall.
A nice looking machine. So is yours. Spider, Gumdrop, I can see your jets firing just as clear as a bell. Roger, I was watching your light down there. It lights up the whole sky.
For the first time, a manned lunar module was operated in space solely on its own power.
In the command module, there are really three things you have to do. One is to fly it from the left couch, and the second is to navigate from the lower equipment bay, and the third is to monitor the systems from the right couch. And it's rather difficult to be in all three places at one time. So fortunately, the ground capability of monitoring the systems is such that I paid very little attention to the systems. I felt completely confident throughout the rendezvous that ground monitoring was keeping me posted of the status of the command module systems. And they, in fact, were. As a matter of fact, they could catch what I was doing somewhat faster than I could, and several times passed me information and called out a switch setting before I even had a chance to get to it. LEM comes in two pieces, the descent stage and the ascent stage, and we really wanted to look at the handling qualities of both combinations and just see how the whole spacecraft flew for what would have been a lunar type of rendezvous. The major things that we did during this period of time were to align our inertial measuring unit using the optical unit on the limb. And we had some concern about this because of the large field of view and our really unknown ability to see stars in the daylight through this. But I would like to point out here that we actually completed half of our first alignment in the daylight, which was quite a surprise to everyone, and we were really pleased with the performance of this particular portion of the system.
Following operational tests, McDivitt and Schweickart prepared to fire the Lunar Module descent engine. Approximately 3 miles from the command module, a maneuver was initiated to thrust the Lunar Module into a simulated lunar orbit and rendezvous trajectory.
McDivitt and Schweickart see Gumdrop and Scott fall away as they fire Spider's moon descent engine.
Our first major propulsive maneuver was done under the control of the abort guidance system, and here again it performed just the way it's supposed to. When we finished the burn, we were right on the trajectory that we were supposed to be on. There was one anomaly on this first burn that as we started throttling up the engine, it chugged just a little bit, and then when we stopped throttling, went right on up to the thrust level that it was supposed to be at. So here again, everything performed just right.
Hey Dave, we're at 49 miles and we can still see you. Hey, that's pretty good.
We evaluated our systems and found out that they were all operating fine, and then we were in a large football that carried us out to about 55 miles from the spacecraft, from the command module part of the spacecraft. We determined that everything was operating properly and elected to go on out to 100 miles. We did another propulsive maneuver using the descent propulsion system operating at 10% under manual throttle control and automatic steering. This also worked fine. As we went out to approximately 85 miles, we were able to observe the command module both in the daylight and the darkness out to about 55 or 60 miles.
After separating to a range of 86 miles, Lunar Module staging was initiated using the small maneuvering engines.
Gumdrop, Spider. Go. Roger, our staging works better than your undocking. Haha, you're one up on me.
Roger, you better wait till you get back before you start that.
You haven't heard me say anything.
At a range of about 85 miles, we actually staged the two vehicles where we blow some explosive bolts and blow the bottom portion of the LEM off. Here again, everything operated just right. There was a big bang and a cloud of little pieces, and we were thrusting at the time using a reaction control system. We just separated smoothly, never saw the descent stage, and went on down to the bottom portion of our rendezvous maneuver.
The ascent stage engine, which will be used for liftoff from the moon, was then ignited and burned for several seconds.
Now, with the support of Mission Control, McDivitt and Schweickart would locate Scott alone in the command module and perform the critical rendezvous maneuvers, each burn representing a firing that would one day take men from the surface of the moon to the spacecraft, which would take them home again.
20 seconds.
We have ignition. Burn looks good.
It's a good burn, Dave. Oh, very good. Thank you.
We did another maneuver using the ascent propulsion system in the flight. And this was only a 4-second burn, but the ascent propulsion system worked just fine. And as far as we could evaluate in that short period of time, there are no problems with it either. We came back in using our radar. I might add that we used our radar throughout the entire maneuver. It took us out to about 100 miles, and the radar performed superbly. We came back into a range of about 35 miles and began our terminal phase of the rendezvous, where we initiate a maneuver that brings us up underneath the command module up to his altitude. Again, the information that we had on board agreed precisely with the information that we had on the ground, which also agreed precisely with the information that Dave was generating in the command module. We made this transfer and came right on up to the command module. We saw him at about 2.5 miles or so, just where we're supposed to see him, as a very small portion of light that was looked somewhat like a moon, except with blunt ends on it. And as we sort of crescent shape, but not quite. As we came in closer, he appeared as a nice shiny circle.
The manned ascent stage closed in along its rendezvous trajectory with the command module. This was the most critical maneuver of the entire mission. Since the lunar module is not capable of entering the Earth's atmosphere, the two astronauts had to rejoin the command module for return to Earth.
Okay, we're at 98.5 miles and 10 feet per second. That's pretty good. Yeah, you can just see me, huh? Spider jump drop. Go ahead, jump drop. I've got 67 miles and 112 feet per second. Okay, we have 67 miles and 107 feet per second. How about that? Wait a second, now you're 5 feet per second off. You're going to have to shape that up. Well, let me take some more marks and I'll get it squared away. All righty. Okay, we're 5 feet per second, about 610 feet.
After a separation of almost 6 hours, and after traveling more than 100 miles from each other, the Apollo 9 command service module and the ascent stage of the lunar module successfully rendezvoused on schedule at an imaginary point in space.
From Gumdrop, Dave Scott sees his friends returning in a changed Spider. Without even a moon landing gear, it is now totally a spaceship with a look that seems strangely appropriate and even beautiful.
Station keeping was maintained at a distance of 100 feet for photography of the spacecraft.
Side down again. Hey, I was just thinking one of us isn't right side up. Well, you've got contraptions hanging out all over. Okay, I have us about 370 feet. Okay, looks closer than that. Okay, doesn't it though? How does that sports car handle, Jim? Pretty nice. I don't even see you in there, David. Oh, I'm here. Been waiting for you to bring that good water back.
Then went ahead with a LEM active docking. Dave briefly touched on the fact that we had done a command module active docking earlier in the flight. We had a test objective to do a LEM active docking. Unfortunately, the brightness of the command module was considerably greater than we had anticipated, and the sight that we were using was not bright enough to be seen against this shiny background, and I had some difficulty in finding the site. When I got into about 4 or 5 feet through a GCA from Dave, I was actually able to see the site and was able to conduct the docking without any further difficulty.
Okay, I'm lined up in translation, but I can't tell what my attitude is, Dave. If I don't see it, well, there it is, there. Now you're coming in. That's good. There you go. I think you got a handle on it now. But it keeps disappearing. Now you're looking pretty good. Top capture. All right, Gary. Okay. Let's get it lined up. Okay, why don't you do it? I can't tell where it is. We're free now.
Right.
Successful docking of the lunar module with the command module was completed at 98 hours and 59 minutes into the mission.
Success. And Scott sees his friends emerge from the tunnel happy and tired.
After the crew returned to the command module, the lunar module ascent stage was again separated. By ground command, the ascent engine was reignited and burned to depletion to place the stage in an orbit of 4,312 by 143 miles.
The crew of Apollo 9 watched as their lunar module, now crewless, arced away from them.
Hey, it's really moving out. I hope I didn't forget anything on board it. He's sure a long ways away. Hey, since we didn't get the launch on the right day, is Chris there? That's affirmative. Okay, we've got a message for him. Okay, he's on the loop. Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Christopher. Happy birthday to you. That was magnificent. The only thing... Yeah. You may even overshadow the Rendezvous with performances like that.
During the remaining 5 days in orbit, the pace became more relaxed.
A routine of picture taking and observations with an occasional burn to refine the orbit.
Time was devoted to navigation sightings, general crew flight experience, and to Earth terrain photography.
A great deal of attention was devoted to photographing parts of the Earth with conventional color film and with infrared sensitive film. This was the most extensive photographic mission performed to date, and the data acquired has had wide distribution to Earth scientists in this country and abroad.
Special attention was given to previously unphotographed areas in the higher latitudes. These included the east coast of the United States from Norfolk to Long Island, Cape Hatteras on the Carolina coast, the expanding cities of the New South, Atlanta, Georgia, Birmingham, Alabama, and Charleston, South Carolina. A striking view of the Grand Canyon in the southwestern United States was also photographed. Clearer views of previously photographed areas were obtained, including the Southern California coastline and the home of the astronauts, Houston, Texas.
Right here is a tremendous picture of a weather system, a cyclonic thing that was actually seen from the weather satellites only a matter of 3 or 4 hours after this. By correlating this photograph with what was seen on the transmission from the weather satellite, we were actually able to show what, when you get this glob of black and white from the weather satellite, what it really looks like from orbit, and what it would probably what the weatherman can do with that. When he sees something like this, he's pretty sure what it is, but sometimes the weather satellites aren't quite so clear. So there's a good correlation between these two. Next slide, please. This is a picture of Gibraltar, and we were a little bit farther north than any of the other U.S. space flights had been, and we were able to take some quite good pictures of the northern latitudes. We're kind of sort of like this one, so we thought we'd put it in there. It's a pretty historic place. Here's another famous place. This is known as the tongue of the ocean. It's down in the Bahama Islands, and I might say that the trip that we took every day down through the Caribbean across these islands was absolutely fantastic. Most of the very light blue there is underwater, and there are just a very few places that the land actually protrudes above the surface. Why don't you point out the Andros Island up there in the upper left? Well, okay, I'm not sure if that's Andros.
That's it over there, yes.
Is it here? Okay, this the water here in this darker section is about 5,000 feet deep, whereas here on the lighter sections it runs anywhere between 8 feet to up to about 20 or 30 feet. These are the Bahama banks, and this line here is almost a vertical drop from 20 or 30 feet to 5,000 feet. You can see all of the erosion that's taken place along the cliff front there.
With the great interest in undersea exploration, a photograph like this could just be invaluable help. Next slide, please. We took the color photographs in infrared, and the greens come out red, and the contrast is all different. So you see red trees, and you see funny-looking water and everything, but the contrast is tremendous. This is a picture taken in the San Diego area. You can see the brilliant colors that stand out there. This is the mouth of the Colorado River. You can see the red fields up there at the top, and the blue, the funny blue water, and the streaks in it, which weren't apparent at all from the just normal color photographs that we took of the same area. Mississippi River, just about 100 miles north of New Orleans. You can see the old meandering path of the river, and as a matter of fact, this type of color photography could very well be used in determining things such as border disputes or between states or something like that, because it sort of tells you the history of the riverbed, which isn't apparent from a normal color photograph. It all blends together. The trees and the water all look dark, and it's really difficult to see the difference.
And this is the Salton Sea with the Imperial Valley and all the red alfalfa fields. But I think this is a classic photograph of the use of color IR film from space.
On the 9th day of the mission, high winds and heavy seas developed in the planned prime recovery area zone in the Atlantic Ocean. To avoid these conditions during splashdown, an alternate recovery zone 540 miles to the south was selected by Mission Control and the Apollo 9 crew. The new recovery zone required one additional orbit of the Earth, the 152nd, and added 26,000 miles and 98 minutes to the flight. On the final day of the mission, a 12-second burn of the main spacecraft engine was begun over Hawaii, slowing the spacecraft to deorbit velocity.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, retro.
Mission confirmed. And we've had cutoff confirmed. And tracking out of Hawaii now shows the height at 163 nautical miles, velocity 25,198 feet per second and dropping. Energy predicted at minus 4.2 miles.
Following the burn, the command module separated from the service module and entry was begun at 400,000 feet over the United States.
After 10 days in Earth orbit, Gumdrop prepares for its fiery re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere.
The crew took these pictures of the re-entry and opening of the parachutes.
Beginning of blackout. As some 2 minutes away from drogue chute deployment. 19 nautical miles altitude. Reported that the Guadalcanal crew did hear the sonic boom as the Apollo 9 spacecraft came into the atmosphere. Main chute should be going out at this time. Recovery 3 helicopter has visual contact. And it's visually in sight from the carrier. Big chair went up here in the Mission Operations Control Room as they saw it on the tube. Estimate now 3 miles from the ship. Control. Splashdown time 53 seconds past the hour, which is some 10 seconds later than the predicted splash time of 43 seconds past the hour.
We've never seen this before. We've never had such a close-up. We actually watched the hatch open.
Out, the man in the center couch, Command Module pilot Dave Scott. Lonesome Dave, who flew that gumdrop all alone while his friends went off in the LEM. He'll be the luckiest of the three in what was soon. Downdraft from the helicopter overhead is beating up that nice calm ocean, and things are about to get considerably worse.
The orange one is to drop into when you get out of the hatch, and then you move on to the yellow one to wait to be picked up by the helicopter. You can't see from here which one of the astronauts was the first out. Here's the second. I am
Now Rusty Schweickart, the LEM pilot, spacewalker, and rookie of the flight. Schweickart gets into some trouble. Watch what happens when he tries to transfer from one life raft to another.
One more astronaut still inside the spacecraft.
Finally, last man off the spacecraft, command pilot Jim McDivitt. You'll see here just about the most remarkable picture yet of an astronaut fresh out of a spaceship. And now the spacemen wave to the Guadalcanal, sure their troubles are at an end. They're wrong. After several misses, frogmen catch the Billy Q basket, and astronaut Scott rolls neatly inside.
There's a message that's just been relayed here. Aircraft high above, trying to talk to the Guadalcanal to pass on a message from the White House to the astronauts when they arrive on the ship. So perhaps we'll have a phone call from President Nixon, or at least a contact and message of congratulations on their safe arrival back after their historic mission. The first astronaut has been pulled up into Commander Rankin's helicopter. We think that was Colonel Scott. And the basket is coming down to get the next one. Some of the equipment that these helicopters have in them, electronic equipment for their normal work of anti-submarine detection, has been removed to make more room inside for the astronauts and for the homing device, which locked in and directed them to the spacecraft.
At Mission Control in Houston, bone-weary controllers were jubilant as they watched the landing on live TV. And as the choppers set down on the Guadalcanal's deck, the red carpet had been rolled out. Below decks, a 350-pound cake awaited the astronauts after 10 days on freeze-dried space food.
And here's Colonel McDivitt, first man out. Schweickart and Scott near them. James, the NASA Public Affairs Officer, at the foot of the stairway. Astronauts are coming out now and chatting with James. They look pretty well. Dr. Jernigan behind them. Taylor's following, yelling. Putting them on, though. They're all looking pretty good shape. Smiling, happy, some beard. They're being asked now to step up and say a few words to Jim McDivitt. All caps on. And it says, Guadalcanal, astronaut.
It's certainly been a long time since we left land. And obviously I don't have my sea legs or my land legs either. But it's sure good to be back. Matter of fact, I think you guys kept us here on the Guadalcanal, kept us going the last few days. We heard you had a big cake here, and every night when we were eating our evening meal, we discussed how much of the cake we're going to eat. As a matter of fact, I don't think we ate very much the last couple of days just getting ready for it. We've had a real good time, and I hope we accomplished something worthwhile. The whole space program is made up of just thousands of people. We're just a very small part of it, and you guys are really A number one for us. Thanks to everybody who's helped.
I'd just like to reiterate what Jim said and say it's great to be back, and it's great to be here in a
parts of that recovery. We sure appreciate you all being right here.
The historic 6.5 million mile Earth orbital flight of Apollo 9 successfully demonstrated all of the techniques and maneuvers required for landing on the lunar surface, liftoff, and rendezvous and docking with a command module in lunar orbit. This experience, in addition to that gained on the lunar orbital mission of Apollo 8 and the long-duration Earth orbital mission of Apollo 7, demonstrated the capabilities of the entire Apollo Saturn V space vehicle, the crew, and mission support facilities. All needed to fulfill this nation's commitment to land men on the moon and return them safely to Earth prior to 1970.